And here we are live. So hi everyone, this is the final stream for CONSIM Game Jam Edition 1, and in this stream we will talk about the projects that were submitted, and at the end of the stream we will announce the winner of this first edition of CONSIM Game Jam. So thank you everyone for joining us. I don't know how many people we have on the live stream now. And I don't know if, I will trust you, Joe, to let me know. And you, of course, you can push some comment in the chat. And if you have questions or interesting comments, I'll push them also on the stream. And we're having a drink here, so cheers, Joe.
Cheers.
And cheers to everyone joining us. I guess that if you're in the US, you're probably not having a drink yet. So sorry about that. And good. Oh, and we have Sean on the chat, so that's really cool. So Sean is the man in the shadows, the third organizer that unfortunately, being in Australia, is never available for the live stream. So I'm really sorry about that.
We also have Volko in the chat there. He couldn't join us live, unfortunately, but we can maybe post his comment up as well.
Yes, exactly. So first surprise guest, we have Volko in the chat. So if you have questions or complaints because you're not winning, you can address them directly to Volko. He's here. And we're hoping to have other surprise guests probably during the stream. And Volko is saying that it's beer time on the East Coast. So that's perfect time, I think, for that stream. We find a way for everyone to be happy. Whiskey time for us, beer time in the US. I think it's working. Not sure where Sean is because 7 a.m. I'm not completely convinced that it's any kind of alcohol time. We have quite some people, strong GMT presence, because we also have Luke Billingsley that is also on the live chat. Hi, Luke. Cool. We have quite a few people. So we have Leonard, we have Cameron, we have Mike. So that's pretty nice. And I think that we can maybe start talking about CONSIM Game Jam Edition 1. So Joe and I wanted to start by saying something for this first edition, and this thing is thank you to all of you. That was awesome. We had a great time. It was super exciting. We had no idea what we were actually doing, so and it ended up pretty well. We're super happy with the results. The spirit of the game jam was really great. We had a lot of fun, and we were really impressed overall by first of all the quality of the submissions, but also the team spirit. That was really great. And I see that Team Magmafant just joined the chat, so that's great. Probably the most alcoholic team that we had on that first game jam, so that was awesome. So that's the first thing. We wanted to thank all of you for participating. Obviously, we wanted to thank the jury for making it possible, and our two sponsors for this first edition that were Cioto Creative, so Donna Hegarty, and especially GMT Games that are providing the prices for that first CONSIM Game Jam. So that was really awesome. I don't know if you want to add something, Joe.
No, I think you said it all. It's just been an incredible experience. We've had a great time. It's been extremely fun chatting to everyone and watching all the projects develop. And I'm really excited to move forward with future jams.
Yes, and that is also obviously a topic that we'll discuss a bit later. First, before talking about all the different submissions and ending up the stream with the winners, there's a few things that we wanted to talk about. So we sent a form to all the participants to gather some feedbacks and learnings, because obviously the idea is for us to make an even better Game Jam Edition 2 in the future. And we got really interesting feedbacks from you guys, so it was really cool. Thanks again for taking the time and helping us making it better. And let's go through a few of the learning that we had and some of your feedbacks. First of all, almost everyone had fun except for one person, and we know who it is, and we have an eye on him, and we hope that in the future he'll be happy to. But overwhelming satisfaction for the event. So that was really cool, and we're happy to see that you guys had a lot of fun. Will you come again? all the participants want to join CONSIM Game Jam number 2, so I think that's already a pretty good sign. That was super cool to see that even though it was intense, most of you were sleep deprived at the end of the 72 hours. You all wanted more, so that was pretty cool. And I think that we had one specific comment that for me summed it up, and that was this one, talking about the sleeplessness, but also the excitement of seeing a lot of ideas bursting out during the weekend, having a huge amount of fun, seeing the other teams doing stuff. The overall spirit of the jam was really around encouragement, super positive, and I think it was really satisfying to see that spirit coming up, because that's what we wanted to push. It looks like you had a memorable and enjoyable time, and I think that for us that was exactly what we wanted to see. So in that regard, it was a really cool success.
There's a lovely comment from Mike France in the chat here. I think you should push in as a first-time designer, saying it was pretty inspirational. I thought that's nice. Good to know.
Yes, and that's exactly the kind of thing that we also want to push. Having first-time designing, having their first experience, having fun, and if this is happening, it's exactly what was our objective. So that was definitely great. Then we did have some complaints. And once again, we announced at the beginning of the game jam that we had, like, it was the first time, we didn't exactly knew how to handle it. So of course there were some stuff that were a bit choppy, and we're sorry about this. And I summed up in 3 major complaints. And I think that the first one was around what does a winning project should be. And this is touching upon something around what do you expect from the jury. And we had a few comments that were saying, well, we expected the judges to test all of the games and go in depth and really evaluate the mechanism and how good the game was and how good the theme was implemented. And once again, and we already discussed about this on the Discord server, and I can understand where the feedback comes from. But I think realistically, for this kind of event, first of all, we don't expect those games to be perfect and super polished, because they are made in 72 hours. So some of them are probably broken, some of them have balancing issues, and once again, the cognitive load of learning 17 games, playing them fully, really understand how they work, I think it's something that might be a bit unrealistic to expect from the jury. But just to be clear, we don't know what would be the best approach, and that's definitely something that we want to discuss with the participants, just to see what you think, how we could address this. We've had some chats with the organizers, also thinking about maybe there is a way for us to introduce, like there is in video game jams, a level of auto-evaluation between participants. So as a participant, you have to play a couple of games on like additionally to your submission, and that's definitely a discussion that we would like to have in the future with you to see how we could counteract this. But I think that expecting the jury to play all of the games, I mean, we have 15 submissions for that first edition, and that was only the first one. So I think it would have been a bit tricky. I don't know, Joe, if you...
Yeah, just one thing. So this isn't necessarily what this comment's about specifically, but one thing that did come up a couple of times was people concerned that the judges might just be watching the videos and kind of making a judgment call off that. And of course that's not what's happened. So they've looked quite closely at all the materials, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can sit down and actually play every single game. I'm however going to try and play all the games, and I would like to chat with each team as I do that. And I think moving forward as well, if people have made some new connections and some new people to work with in future, that's a really great thing to come out of the jam as well. So we definitely want something more to come out of it than just who's won. Trying to work out what that should look like is something we'd really like to hear from you about.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, and with Joe, we already had this plan of playing all of the games. I played already some of them, and I think Joe too. And we're actually setting up some games for higher player counts with some people on Discord actually to try them out. Then one other was having the frustration around the timeline. Only 72 hours, having to ditch a lot of ideas, feeling like all of the research could have been go further and everything. And I think here we just really need to clarify what we're expecting to do here. If we impose 72 hours, is also just to make sure that you have that short burst of time. And that's also what we see the value of that format is that you have a very limited amount of time. You have to come up with some ideas. You have to make decisions. And the fact that you have this limited amount of time forces you to make those decisions and be efficient in the way you approach the design and realize what's important when you're building a game. And I think, Joe, you had also a point around this.
Oh yeah, so I've considered this myself and whether we could extend it to a week or something. But the problem then is it's very hard for people to sit down and focus nonstop for a whole week on a game. Not least because they'll need to sleep, but also because they have jobs and other commitments. So I think if it's going to be a focus burst, 72 hours is really the most we can ask of people. So extending it to a week wouldn't in practice give people any more time. What you could do is extend it to a month or 2 months, like some of the other board game competitions on Board Game Geek and so on do. But that's really a very different format. And what we're particularly interested in here is giving people a tailored onto paper. Have we?
No. We lost you for a bit, but
okay.
I think it's all good.
And that's fine. Yeah, that's all.
And those events already exist on BGG. There are some really good ones with very interesting theme where you can actually work on something over the course of a month. And there is it's a different format. It also exists, and I think that's not necessarily what we're trying to do with this one.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there is a really good feedback, and we're going to talk about this. Some people, when the end of the competition was coming up, they started asking questions around, well, what's the judging criteria? What will make the game the winner? And the problem is that we didn't really have an answer for this, and for one simple reason, we didn't think about it. So that's a learning for us. It was a very good feedback, and obviously my idea originally was, well, we have very experienced designers that are in the jury. They will figure it out. And I think it was probably unfair on the teams, unfair on the jury. And we see that probably for edition 1, that was one of the myths. But that's definitely something that we're taking into account for the future. And actually, as a follow-up to this, those are some announcements that we already have for changes that we want to do for edition 2. So already, we're planning on an edition 2, so that's the first thing. And there are a few things that we want to change. First of all, we're going to make sure that we set up the teams a bit more in advance. So for this first edition, when we set up the team, it was 48 hours or maybe less than that before the event. You had to learn to know each other. Some of you actually had to also discover Discord as a platform. So it was a lot of things to take in. For new first-time designers, it was also really short to understand, I have to figure out how TTS works because I'm going to work virtually with other players from around the world. I don't have resources. I don't know how to approach that. And it was quite a challenge for a lot of people. And actually, to help tackle that, what we're going to do with the platform that we have, so consimgamejam.com, our website, is that we're going to start posting some tutorials, articles about design, some potentially some podcasts, if I manage to convince Joe that we do a podcast in the future, but building some elements for you to actually have some time to prepare for those kind of events, so you're not completely, we don't drop a theme on top of you. It's you have 72 hours, deal with it. So yeah, trying to smooth that transition within the Game Jam.
Just before you go on, there are a couple of things from the chat. One is that we've got Gene Billingsley with us. Big name, obviously. Another, and he says, "Good point, Sean." So Sean, that's a tip of the hat from Gene for you. Mike France also mentions time zone mismatches, and yes, this is something we've thought about as well. So yeah, this is lower down on the list. We would like to try and arrange that better there.
Yes, and originally we didn't do it because and I'm going to explain where the thinking came from. So with Joe and Sean, we do a lot of those sometimes the stupid session where we start with a project and everything, and you have to know that Sean is in Australia, so for him it's 7 a.m. now, and for us it's 11 p.m. Here. And it actually works for us in a lot of, either when it's about playing or about designing or about any kind of project, because we can actually leverage the fact that that Sean can work when we're sleeping, and vice versa. And it's true that it doesn't work for everyone, but it's definitely something that we'll take into account in the future. And I think it just came from our own experience, and that was not necessarily relevant for a lot of the people. And then we had a lot of comments regarding, well, we would like to have more interactions with the jury, talk with the designers, having discussions about game design. And we had one of those sessions during this first edition on Saturday night, where we had actually Jason coming on the Discord server. He actually was super active on the server, and I really thank him for that. That was awesome to actually have him being here, providing advice, making jokes, being mean to the organizer as he can be, but also taking the time on Saturday night, afternoon, for him to actually answer a lot of questions of people that were here. And people saw a lot of value in that. Not a lot of people could attend, but the ones who did really enjoyed it. And we'll try to make sure that in the future we'll have those sessions. So sessions to talk about design with the jury, but also question and answer sessions, maybe with the organizers, but with a wider audience, so we can actually help out on other problematics that you can come up with during the game jam. Take into account time zones. We've already discussed about this. And of course, a more structured set of judging criteria. We've heard you. We're sorry. We'll work on it. We'll announce them ahead of time. Everything would be clear, so you know what you're getting into and what you need to focus on for this submission to work. And one last thing, we had quite a few people asking for some goodies. So we are not really able to make some goodies, pay for them, print them, and sending them across the world. So that would be a bit tricky, but we're looking into solutions to actually have a platform online where we'll have designs for the CONSIM Game Jam to buy a t-shirt or something like this. And for participants actually to buy a bit of swag and have something to remember the event. I think it was a really good point. It's just that, we didn't really have the infrastructure at that time, but Joe came with a really good proposal, I think, around t-shirts. So that's what we're going to be working on. And I started discussing with Don actually on making a nice design for a t-shirt. So we'll keep you posted on this.
So one other thing with the goodies, so it is something we discussed previously, but we really had no idea how many participants there would be. So whether there would be any interest in this kind of thing. So it was absolutely wonderful to see so much interest, and that we'll build on that moving forward. And there's another great comment from Gene in the chat, which I think is worth sticking up here as well. He says, what you all learned from this first edition, including us as the organizers, indeed, is likely more important than what we created. And that's exactly right. So one thing we really want to emphasize here is part of what we want to do is get people kickstarted on designing something. And that's not going to be a polished design by any means, but it's a way to learn a lot about design and get started on it. And one last thing, we have an objective, is we would like to target a more diverse attendance for edition 2. So we did actually had a lot of first-time designers, like people who never did this, and that was around 38% of the audience that was there. So that was really cool. But we would like to even expand that a bit more, because we had a lot of designers unpublished, but also a lot of them that were published. I think that adds a lot of value. So if we can keep having established designer joining the game jam, I think it would be a great motivation, especially if they work with people that are a bit less experienced. I think there is a lot of value in that exchange, but we would like to have this proportion of people that never actually designed a game before to be a bit wider than what we had before. That we had for that first edition. And there is one comment that we had that really made us think about the way we approach and the way we communicate. So someone who was super positive about the event, that was super happy about the spirit of the event, the kind of interaction we had on Discord, that was great. But the thing is, there was a bit of a barrier of entry at the beginning. And he's actually pointing out, he or she actually pointing out the fact that the forum was using a lot of designer lingo that is maybe not like we're used to talk about it between us, but it doesn't make necessarily a lot of sense for a lot of people. And just making sure that we are a bit more approachable is something that we're going to try to do. Then saying that, there is something that I was very touched by, and for me that was a major success, is that we actually had parents coming in with their kids, and I thought that was something that we didn't expect, was a very pleasant surprise.
So even though we are targeting a more diverse audience for the future, I think it was still a success in that regard for a first edition. The way we communicated was mostly targeted at as people who are already heavily invested in war games. So obviously that was also a reflection of that. But even with that, we did manage to have, I think, a pretty diverse audience. But we can do better. Okay, I think that's it for self-criticism. But it was really cool to have all of you giving us some feedbacks, and that provided a huge amount of learnings. Now, what we're going to do is go through all of the projects. And before that, I'm going to let Joe speak a bit about the projects overall. So Joe went through all of the projects and actually saw some interesting trends in there, and we wanted to talk about it.
Cool. So this was my rough classification of the different kinds of systems and mechanics being used by the games. So perhaps not surprisingly, about half of them, so 8 of the final submissions with existing coin mechanics, which is great. We weren't really sure how that would go. We tried to keep it open to other kinds of systems, but we had all of us here really love, so that was great to see. In addition, several games reused the 2-player sequence of play, originally introduced in Colonial Twilight. A few were also 3-player coins. So I think this shows there's a real interest in both smaller and shorter coins. And this is something I know that GMT are interested in at the minute as well. 2 of the games, both by judges or staff, so my game and Jason's game, were what we might call coin adjacent, so adapting parts of a coin system for kind of new games, new systems. And this is something cool to see as well, something I'm interested in and exploring moving forward. So building on the coin platform that Volko invented, but taking it different directions. I don't really know what a CDG is. I'm not a pro wargamer, but I think at least 3 of them were card-driven games, but not coins, using cards in a different kind of way. And then 4 of the submissions just use totally different kinds of mechanics. So tableaus in one case, dice-based systems, just entirely new systems, which is very impressive over 72 hours.
Yeah, that was super impressive. And actually, I have just a small shout out to Carl Paradis, who gave up on us because he thought that it was only a coin game jam. And I just want to show him, look, Carl, out of the 17 projects, only 8 were directly coin card mechanics. So you could have done something else. So it was also a game jam for you. So note to yourself, Carl, don't bail on us next time. We would really want to have a submission from you for edition 2.
Carl was very clear he would like to join next time, to be clear. He's not bailing on it.
And he was super positive. His feedbacks were super nice. Really nice guy. It's just that I really wanted to have him, and I was disappointed that he didn't believe in the possibility of doing something else.
Cool. So in terms of theme, so the challenge we set you was to use one of the existing coin games and the map from that, some of the pieces. I was interested to see which would be used, and I was slightly surprised by some things. Most of the published coins were used at least twice, and Day and Abyss was only used once by me. Except for the sequence of play from Colonial Twilight was adapted. Fire in the Lake was a bit of a surprise to me because it's by far and away the most popular coin. I think there's 2 factors here. So one is perhaps being intimidated by the success of this and not wanting to kind of mess with that. Another is just that the geography of Vietnam is somewhat unique. So it doesn't lend it readily to being adapted to different purposes. Unlike, for instance, A Distant Plane, which can just be turned into Mars, as it was here. The most popular, though, were Pendragon and Liberty or Death, both used 3 times. I think this, just for the kind of audience we had here, they're quite familiar maps. So using the east coast of the US or the UK is quite a distinctive history that we're maybe more familiar with. 11 of the games had historical or very contemporary, in one case, themes, which I suppose fits more with a traditional wargaming crowd. But 6 had more kind of fantasy or science fiction themes, and this is cool as well. I think it's interesting to explore what wargaming can be, that it doesn't need to just be necessarily exploring historical or contemporary conflicts, but it can go off in new directions. So yeah, lots of different stuff there to see.
Great, and now we're going to go into each of the specific projects and just add a few comments for each of them.
Not many. If we talk a lot, we'll be here all night. So maybe just a couple, just one comment from each of us on each one.
Exactly. And just to keep in mind that all of the projects had a video presentation. And if you go on the channel of the CONSIM Game Jam, you'll find in the playlist all of the videos showcasing all of the projects. So you will find them. You will find them by title. So it would be easy to check afterwards. So if you want to look a bit more in depth into specific projects, you'll have that video. And actually, going forward, we're gonna set up a page on consimgamejam.com just to have the links for the TTS mods for the one who have one. So if you want to explore the games yourself, you will also have access directly, and you can play with them going forward. So we're going to start by the off competitions ones, and the first one is Nehru, Partition of India, and this one was the one done by Jason. And yeah, Joe, do you have?
Oh yeah, sorry. Do I have anything to say? Yes. So I was playing this today. I think it's a really cool system. Got a kind of Spirit Island or Pandemic feel to it, where you're trying to juggle multiple different factors. You're basically trying to prevent the historical tragedy that happened during the partition of India. So you're trying to keep down all the different fires and unrest as people move across the country, which is really, really cool. Nice to have some errata, Fred says. Errata.
Yes, yeah, I was really disappointed once again. Errata. Sorry, Gene. I'm sorry. No, but I think it was really, really cool because for me it was a perfect mashup between the coin system and State of Siege. It did something super interesting with two very established systems that I love, and I think the merge of the two is actually super interesting. And I'm actually curious to see if that's something that could keep inspire other designers going forward, because it was really I think it's a really cool idea. Probably the best submission of this game jam. Like if we were in competition, that was the winner. I'm just saying.
So I was working on this over the weekend. Really a turning point for me. I was planning on just having the Predator piece be just a single piece who could then use a special ability to kind of teleport to a space next to it, which is fine, but not particularly exciting. But Sean, my ideas guy, chucks in that we should have some kind of hidden movement. And it made me think of the movement from a very different game, Fury of Dracula, where you've got a sequence of cards hiding where the predator is. So then you've got this idea of picking up on the trail of a predator, which I love and I would like to try and reuse at some point in the future.
And it was a lot of fun working on this one. I think the outcome was surprisingly good. I think it was pretty cool. And I know there is a Rambo game that was just released. And I think this one is way better. So just saying it out there for mainstream board game publisher, maybe you should just reach out to Joe. Then for the more serious project, so the first one was the season. So that was a very original implementation of Liberty or Death. Focusing on Santa Claus delivering gifts. This one was unfortunately a bit off topic, because even though we have a very liberal definition of what we wanted as a game, whether it's a pure war game or something that is historical, this one was a bit far, but it did have some pretty interesting mechanic. And actually, you had an idea, Joe, to make it fit within the team.
I was trying to work out if we could reskin it as a war game somehow, and I thought maybe this is like a child-friendly reskin of maybe an original game, which is about conducting a bombing run up the east coast of the United States as you're dropping off presents to all the cities, which would be a very different kind of theme, but you can maybe reuse some of the mechanics there.
Then, yes, Falling Skies. So that was an interesting mashup between World of Worlds and War of the Roses, which I think the theme is brilliant. Unfortunately, that team didn't really have the time to finish that project. It was a bit too much, and I'm really hoping that this one doesn't get dropped, because I want to play this game. That's the thing. Like on the paper, I was like, my God, I want to play this.
So I love the theme for this one. One thing it had as well mechanically, which comes up in another game as well, and it's interesting, is the idea of a kind of a free-player game. Everyone's competing against each other, but there's also some additional AI faction which you want to either try and use or you need to try and fight off together. And that's an interesting kind of design space, I think. Definitely. Cool. Just great theme as well. Really cool. Great theme here as well. Poker Libre. I love I loved the Cuba Libre for Pokemon, which I was surprised to hear was what was going on here. But actually, when you look into it, it's incredibly well done. So you've got things like the Syndicate equivalent being the Pokemon League, who want to set up stadiums and collect data about the Pokemon. Reuses some of the cubes as evolved and basic Pokemon, who the trainer has to try and collect. And the gorillas are then the wild Pokemon trying to fight back. And I just thought this was an extremely clever way of retheming a coin game for a very different kind of setting.
Yes,
and some good mechanisms too.
Yeah, I was surprised actually by the implementation of it. Like I was on paper, I was like, that sounds weird, and I started looking into the rules and everything, and I was like, that's actually super smart. I was like, the implementation of the theme and the adapting it to the mechanics was really, really cool. Okay, so this one, before we even talk about the game, I just have a huge shout out, and I already said that was a brilliant team, excellent spirit. It was great to have Team Magmafant with us for that first edition. I think like just following them, like following their whole process of designing that game was super fun to be a witness of. And I'm announcing it. If one day we do a CONSIM game jam IRL in a place, we're going to Finland. It's just like we have to go to Finland. I was like, those guys, I just want to spend the whole weekend with them. Just that was awesome. But the idea was so to do a coin-inspired game on the Cudgel War, so Peasant Revolt. And I think that Volko has really strong feelings about Peasant Revolt, and Joe too, actually. So that was.
I do too. I think it's a really interesting theme which hasn't been fully explored in coin yet, but I think is kind of absolutely great coin material. So I was really intrigued to see what they did with this. And they were kind of coin inspired, but also introduced some CDG and even Twilight Struggle elements. So I think this was just a really interesting kind of mashup of different systems and different kinds of mechanisms.
Yeah, and there was some dice chucking in there, like War of the Ring style, like which it sounded like almost like maybe too many mechanics. But I was like, I want to play this. It sounds awesomely fun. And then those guys had an actual cudgel, and I was like, okay, that's a bit frightening, but still super cool. So big shout out to those guys.
There's a nice comment from Volko here, which you might want to flash up about Game of Flails as well. It's a good one, I think.
Oh, I don't have it yet. Yeah, we have a bit of a delay in the chat that I have.
Okay. Well, you can put it up there when it comes. That's fine.
Oh, yes.
Terrifying guy there. Yep, exactly.
Election 2020. So this one was a big surprise for me. I think it was really cool because it was a team that, to my knowledge, didn't know each other. So it was a pure matchup. So they had to learn about each other and come up with a game. They actually went with a very unexpected theme. So very near future, because it's in a few weeks from now. I thought the approach was really fun. There is one thing that I really liked in there, and that's something that I like in my war games, which is actually having some playing spaces that are not only geographical, but also having some potential conflict on spaces like the media, so like more political or more like non-physical spaces. And I think that was super interesting to see that you could use the CONSIM in a different way. So that was pretty cool.
One other thing we should say about this team, as I think Fred just said, but I was watching the chat of all the teams all over the weekend, and it was just really amazing seeing how productive this team were. They were just going at it absolutely nonstop, and they did so much research, so much work. I think several of them hadn't played coins before and had to figure out how the whole system worked, and it was just really, really great team spirit there.
And we have Scott saying that he will design a T-shirt for the next one. Yeah. Okay, duly noted. We'll reach out. The Farthest Plane, that was a very good surprise. Very, very good surprise.
Really, really nice use of the Afghanistan board to simulate some of Mars. Although I'm not quite sure how people feel about that. But yeah, there's some really nice features in this one too, which I think were interesting. I want to think about some more. So there was this idea of crisis events. So when particular thresholds are reached, so when there's too much terror or support is too low, you have these extra maybe more extreme events added into the deck. I think this is quite an interesting idea. and also permanent environmental effects on the board, and also changing victory conditions, which we've already seen a bit in Pendragon. Cool design space. So how a faction might respond to the unfolding events to change what it is they even want to try and do.
But I think that whole idea of changing the board during the game was super interesting, and that's also something that we that was in the next project, Nota Libre. That was also something that I was super interested in. So once again, excellent theme, not historical, pure sci-fi with there's a bit of Escape New York 97 feel. I think that was really cool. A lot of great ideas around what to do with the board, which I thought was super refreshing, and I really like that, because the idea was you have to use the board and the wood pieces, but then what you want to do with the board was pretty open, and I think those are the teams that actually pushed it pretty far. So that was really nice.
I just loved how much this team knows about classic sci-fi and so on. Lots of great hidden references chucked into this one. Yep.
And that's the project of the one I have the maybe one of my biggest soft spots. It was All Villages Burning by Team Fluffopotamus. So this one, it was by the whole Thompson family. So David Thompson and kids. It was so nice to see those videos during the weekend, like those updates around the design. And one of the things that I thought was really cool is the idea of using the coin system to build a cooperative game. And actually, it's something that I would like to see in a game like in the future. I think the idea of doing this is really brilliant, and I thought the implementation was great. And yeah, it was that one just, it sparked joy for me all over the weekend. That was really great.
So first, I want to emphasize that David Thompson was not the lead designer. His daughter, I think Hope, was lead designer. David was only co-designer for this game. And I just think it was a really incredible design. It's playing at Christmas with my family or something, with my younger cousins or my parents or something, and everyone having a fun time. And I find that quite hard sometimes, because I find the kind of lighter family games a bit dull. But this seems to be one which everyone could get something out of. That's something really cool.
Another big soft spot for me, because of the topic, but also because of the team. So that was also a family team. So you had Petre and Dan working together, father and son, on that re-implementation of actually using the board from Falling Sky to do something about the French resistance. And I think there was this whole idea of making short, accessible coins is something that I obviously like, but also there was a few twists on the core mechanic that I thought was pretty cool, and that was the hidden objective for the Resistance. The idea that you have a deck of classical card and you draw it, and it's secret for the Resistance player, and he actually gives him a target on the board, and him going for that target is actually something that will bring him extra points. I think that idea was really awesome.
There was also some really nice event research and card design in this game, and I liked the innovation of the kind of armies too, which kind of changes the terrain of the board as the game goes on, which is a nice touch.
A Woman's Resolve. So that was interesting, because we had two games on the same topic. So two games on Boutica's Revolt, which was interesting. So both using obviously the same game, Pendragon, and this one was super interesting. But I think you had I'll let you talk about it. I'm trying to fix something.
Yeah, this one I think it was just extremely impressive. I think maybe even just a one-person team coming up with basically a completely new mechanical system over the weekend. So also setting components, so sticking really closely to the brief, just using the components here. So the prosperity cubes were reused as neutral population, and then other cubes were reused as population one way or the other. So there's this kind of two-phase game, firstly about building up support in different tribes, and then gathering your armies, kind of moving around and fighting. With also asymmetric goals, hidden Boudica. Lots of very cool stuff in this. Very original design, I'd say.
Okay, So this one, I'm going to say it, I was not part of the jury. I think was probably one of my personal favorites as a game. Like I think it was super interesting. So setter of weapons, and it looked like a bit of a modern day Pax Pamir, and I really like the idea of radically changing the point of view on an event. So it's on the war in Afghanistan, but you're not playing a faction. So you're not playing the warlords, you're not playing the Taliban, you're not playing the coalition, you're not playing the government, you're actually playing someone like a group, an organization selling weapons to those different factions, with all this idea of you're having a sort of market with card-based system. And actually, so those factions are just assets that you can use in a very subtle way. You're selling weapons, building contacts, building a network. And I thought the whole idea of changing the approach and changing the point of view is something that I think is super interesting in historical games and war games, like showing you something from a point of view that you don't expect. And for me, this was doing that. It looked like a really interesting design, and I actually reached out to Peter and I told him I want to play it. I want to spend some time with you on TTS just so you can teach me the rule and have a session, because for me that was, I don't know, brilliant idea.
I'm just really fascinated by the idea of playing this game side by side with a regular, completely normal distant plane game. You know, maybe if you buy some guns, you get an upgrade to your Taliban attacks or something, and this idea that you need to go between both tables, maybe try and get the best arms dealer on side, or you know, if you're the coalition, you want to try and pay off the arms dealer so he doesn't sell stuff to the warlords. I really fascinating kind of weekend mega game or something to try and play. It'd be really interesting.
And this one, for me, also a perfect example of what we wanted the game jam to be. A more perfect union is a team that was actually a completely made up team of people who didn't know each other, and they came together, worked a huge amount on research, finding the right mechanics and everything, and they made this weird mix between Coin and King's Dilemma, which I thought was super interesting, and I was like, whoa, that's super cool. We should have a game setup of this one during this weekend with some people from the Coin Discord server, just to try it, because it was so interesting as an approach. Even though it's not necessarily a theme that I'm super interested in, that game made me want to learn more, and it was a very, very, very exciting one.
I love the Constitutional Convention. That was really the highlight of my weekend, I have to say. Excellent work on that pun. But also a really cool design, really interesting novel use of pieces, and also rethinking, you know, what a war game in some way, a war game mechanically and in terms of the history of the ideas, but purely political there, which is really cool.
Yes, super interesting. Very excited to play this one. And now it's time to talk about the finalists. And for the finalists, we have a special guest, and I'm just gonna try to pop her into the stream. And we have Morgan with us. Hi, Morgan.
Hello.
Perfect, no lag. So that's that. So we had we had a lot of problems with Volko. We tried with Volko. Actually, it was super tough. Like we had one image per 5 seconds with Volko, so that was bad. But super active in the chat, so that's awesome to have both of you actually here. And we're really happy to have you for talking the finalists. Maybe. So first of all, thank you for being here for this first session. And we're wondering, so what was the experience on your perspective?
Well, it was it was very interesting first, and we've been active on Twitter, and I want to repeat what we said there. I mean, very impressed by the engagement and the number of original contributions and the passion that could see, you know, transpiring through all this. Hedging. and so, it was interesting. We were a little bit, some of the comments which opened this stream apply to us as well. I mean, Volko and I were like, okay, so what are we supposed to judge based upon whatever? So we built up our own grid, which is to a large extent, I mean, the way we built it was obviously very I don't know, arbitrary in a way, but at least we all used the same grid, and then we shared that, and we discussed, and we had some lively exchanges. I mean, we were sort of defending some games, like how can you not have this as the top 3 or whatever. So obviously a lot of interest, a lot of passion being generated through these games. Thankfully, there were still a few games where we were all in agreement that they were really top-notch, so that made the list easy. But I must say, and I'm pretty sure I will echo Volko's and Jason's sentiments here, that we really hope that a number of these games, and not only the 3 that we have placed at the top, go on and get fully developed and hopefully actually get released at some point, because we saw a lot of very interesting material, and we do recognize that you guys only had 72 hours. And what you guys did, and guys and gals did in these 72 hours was very impressive, and we fully recognize that. I mean, these were basically design concepts. I mean, some of the groups went a lot farther in developing and making it into a playable prototype. But I know that for myself, I tried not to put too much weight onto the polishing of the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's nice to have, obviously, and that's a great credit to those who did. But I was more interested in saying, okay, who came up with something which really has legs, right? Yep. And I mean, I myself, I mean, it took me years to design a game, so I'm certainly not going to say, you know what, you guys, you couldn't get a finished game in 72 hours. Are you serious?
But wait a minute, you didn't do Pendragon in 72 hours, Morgan? I'm shocked.
Well, I guess I got Pendragon to a state similar to what the team submitted in a fairly short time, but that fairly short time was more like a couple months than a couple days. There was a burst of initial, the concept. I mean, whether it's Hubris Pendragon or other games which are yet to come to light. Yes, you do have a burst of creative, and you have notes, and you have this concept in your head, and you're trying to put something on electronic paper, etc. But having something which is actually playable, and obviously I did not use Vasta or Tabletop Simulator, which may help, I don't know. But truly, I mean, it's a quite remarkable endeavor to produce a design concept up to the point that what we saw in evaluation in 72 hours. I mean, I can't do that anymore, not with a family, not at my age, not with my declining faculties, I guess. But anyway, so, right. So,
should we move on to the finalists?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, 3 finalists. The first one, In the Shadows. Card-driven game about the French resistance also. So also using Falling Skies, but really having a pure card-driven mechanic with a system that I've seen already. But for just one thing that I would like to say about this one before having Morgan's point of view is that for me, that's also one of the success of that game jam, this project, because we actually put together three people that knew each other but never worked together. And actually the result of that was like, I was really, when I knew those 3 people getting together and working on a game together, I already got excited before even seeing it. And when I saw the result, I was like, yes, this is great. This is great. So what did you think, Morgan?
Well, I must say that, I mean, I think the game was great. I mean, I ranked it. I mean, we had a scale up to 10, so 1 to 10 on 4 different criteria. And so my overall grade was 8.3, which made it very high. I still was a little bit disappointed. I guess the subject matter is excellent. I think there was a ton. I mean, there was a ton of good ideas. There's a ton of things I loved in this concept. There were a few things missing, and I will ascribe that to lack of time to a large extent. But yes, I would definitely like to see this game. More time and get probably a bit more content, because I think wall aspects were not included, which, I understand. I mean, it's a design. You have to do simplification. You cannot just include everything. But okay, some important things were missing, in my opinion. Of course, I'm French, so I have opinions on this one. It's just like you, Fred, I'm sure. But I mean, definitely a very worthy entry. The level of quality of the material which was submitted was just amazing.
Yes, impressive. I don't know how they do it in such a short time. It was insane.
I mean, some people have skills. There's no doubt. So maybe they should help me with. But anyway, no, definitely a worthy entry. Definitely something I would like to play at some point. I mean, the way I went is that since we did not have, simulators for each and every game, and we did not have time, rather than play some of the games and not others, I prefer not to play any. I didn't try to play any of them. I spent a lot of time with the videos and the materials and going through that, reading the rules, trying to sort of figure out what it would work. But that I could do with each and every submission. That way, I could have like a level playing field for all the submissions. So yes, I would definitely like to play it at some point. I mean, like most other submissions, it needs some work. What I like about it is that something about the criteria, we saw some games were more like expansions on existing games, right? Some were a lot more original games. And both are great, okay? But to some extent, it was not entirely fair to compare, a game which was aiming at being a brand new game and a game which was a very original and smart and everything, but still an expansion to an existing game. I mean, it's very hard. They are essentially two different things, in my opinion.
Joe, what did you think about it?
I thought it was cool, interesting. I like the use of the different zones, and as Volker said in the chat here, the how they spotted that in the falling sky map. It's interesting to me historically that there's some kind of continuity, perhaps. Or not, as the case may be. That's an interesting. Well, as an outsider, that was something I found interesting to hear about. Anyway,
but I think that for me personally, just to close this one with actually not reusing the map, but with a new map, I think I would pledge it tomorrow. I think, yeah,
yes,
yes. And I guess that Morgan feels the same way.
Yes,
cool.
Joe, I'll let you introduce this one.
That's because you don't know what to try and say the name. I've been trying to research this. Vijayanagar or Vijayanagar is city in southern India, and this is a free play coin on the Gandhi map, but for a much longer ago, centuries ago, historical conflict where you have two kind of ethnic groups, Hindu and Muslim vassals of the Delhi Sultanate, both independently trying to overthrow the Sultanate over several centuries, I think. While there's also this growing threat of Mongols from the north, which puts pressure on the Sultanate. So you have something like a traditional coin setup, but with very different rules, very different systems. So there's a kind of a dominant coin type faction, but then these other two factions trying to take advantage of the pressure placed on them, which I think was an interesting dynamic.
It was really cool. The idea of just taking coin and put it and bringing it to another space mechanically. I think it was really, really nice. I really looking forward to playing that one. What did you think, Morgan?
That's funny, because to me, Vijayanagara, which I was extremely impressed with, to me is the perfect example of a coin extension. I saw it as purely coin. In a good way. I mean, obviously, I'm a great fan of the coin engine and of its flexibility, which I think we have been exploring, Bruce, Mansfield, myself, and others since the very first wonderful entries into the series. This engine is very flexible. It can cover a lot of situations, and they showed that. Plus, the theme is super original, super interesting. I mean, this one, I tell you, if it doesn't get released and in a way that can be played and played and played, I will be very, very upset because yeah.
Yeah, no, I should just clarify that by coin, I was thinking more of a conventional kind of coin insurgency structure. So I totally agree with you that it's a kind of classic coin series entry. But in terms of reimagining what an insurgency looks like, I think, just like you did with Pendragon.
I guess I've moved past seeing coin as purely counter-insurgency a long time ago.
Absolutely. So. No, absolutely, I agree. Yep.
So no, it's a beautiful game. This may have been the most polished of everything we got, especially at that level of ambition. I mean, some other entries were very polished too, but had a much narrower, simpler game structure. This one was like, I mean, honestly, you did that in 72 hours? Are you kidding me? No, a great entry.
And I agree with you. I think the theme was super interesting. What they came up with, I was like, whoa, that's like just the on the theme alone, I was like, okay, I'm in. Definitely. That was.
I was just impressed they managed to do so much kind of deep research in this time as well. Because I don't think it's an era that they knew much about. They just picked up the theme and really looked into it. So it was cool.
Well, I suspect a lot of games are that way. I mean, someone in that team must have had already a lot of knowledge of the period and just found a way to say, you know what? And everything is kind of ready, and that's the way you do games. I mean, you're looking for a way, and then everything just pours. So, Volko's right. I mean, they played it 3 times. I mean, that's 32 hours.
And they've continued to play it since then. They've been playing every evening since the weekend, and they're trying out new strategies. They're already trying to come up with ways to break game. So.
And that's the lesson maybe for others is like the game jam is just the beginning. If you come up with something in 72 hours and you come to a level where you're like, wow, I'm happy with what I have, that was your kickstart. If you want to keep on working on it, I think you should do it. And I think it's a perfect opportunity for that, like really going all in and then keep on working on it. And seeing them using the Discord server and keep working on the design, I think it was super inspiring. So very excited about this one.
This is one of the designers here, Severio, just with a smiley face here. Here he is.
Congrats, Severio.
Cool. Our final finalist?
Yes, final finalist. So Pendragon Boudica's Revolt. So this is this was also, so we had a few stars designer for this event, and this one was by one of them. So Maurice Suckling and Chris, and then so this one was on Boudica's Revolt, and Boudica's Revolt actually surprisingly, I was a bit, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I was surprised that there were 2 games on the same topic.
It's a very popular topic in the UK. We learn about it in school. It's a great kind of national myth. So I'm not so surprised.
Neither am I.
Yep.
I want to hear Morgan about it. I mean, it's on Pendragon. It's like
right. So it was one of the I mean, obviously it's incredibly great pleasure to have seen Pendragon chosen as the basis for 3 entries. Was very excited by all 3 of them. So I was definitely looking with a lot of attention at all 3. I think, Boudica's Revolt was kind of midway, maybe not midway, but somewhere between Vijayanagara and Into the Shadows, probably closer to Vijayanagara, because I still see it as essentially a coin expansion, but with a lot more, I won't say new, but I would say not used before in the coin setting elements, which is fine because my definition, of innovation is not necessarily invention. I mean, it's applying to a new context some interesting elements. I think Boudica's Revolt definitely is doing that. I think there's a lot of interesting elements in it. There's a couple very smart mechanisms like the hidden Boudica and the effect of that. I mean, there's it's another game which I definitely want to play. It's another game which I think is fairly close from being ready to be released as an expansion to Clan Dragon. By the way, I would be more than happy to contribute and help if that is something we want to do at GMT. I mean, we have started seeing some of that. I mean, Volko did obviously Ariovistus, which has half plan, I guess, for Falling Sky. But seeing expansion, which kind of expand the appeal and the kind of situation that existing games provide, I think is a great proposition. And Vijay Nagara for Gandhi, which is a wonderful game in itself, Boudica's Revolt, or some version of Into the Shadows, of A Woman's Resolve, or what's his name? The Falling Skies are interesting. So a lot of work was done in 72 hours. I mean, I guess you could see again the experience of someone, who knows what needs to be done in order to deliver it. They didn't grasp too much. I mean, they set to themselves something which was doable. Another. I mean, it was in my top 3. I mean, it's a final top 3. I mean,
So just a few comments that I want to point from the chat. So we have Gene saying, if you and Volko thinks it's a worthy expansion, Morgan, I'm in. So that's also a really good,
I think nice. It is. Yes, Gene.
And we also have Maurice saying, well, like he's pretty happy with. If I was him, I would be like, oof.
Now, I would like to say something. I mean, we had to come up with a trio of. That we are going to spend more time. By all means, that doesn't mean that the other 12 entries are worthless, I mean, absolutely not. There's a ton of these entries which I believe have a ton of potential. They may need more development. Maybe they were too ambitious, and in a way, it was just not possible to bring it all together in a completely coherent way in 72 hours. But it would be a shame if these games do not get, fully developed. I mean, whether it's All Village is Burning, Game of Flays. I mean, Game of Flays is so rich. Maybe it's too rich. It's definitely too rich for 72 hours. But it would be a shame if it just dies.
No, but that's also something that is super important that I think you were saying, Morgan, that like the quality and the level, like you had to come up with 3 finalists. And once again, just to clarify the chat, we haven't announced the winner yet. Nope. But I think the level was insane. There is no order overall, so just don't try to read too much into this. Those were the 3 finalists. And the quality is insane. I think a lot of them, to be totally honest, like there is quite a lot of them that I would pledge tomorrow if they were in P500 or if they were in Kickstarter. I would definitely go for them. So I think that's super impressive. And actually talking about this, we have just one comment from Maurice that I think is pretty interesting, talking about the system itself and its flexibility. And I think that's what you were saying, Morgan, about the fact that you like thinking about coin beyond what counterinsurgency, but also mostly using it as a framework for asymmetric conflict. So I think it's a pretty interesting,
Yeah, I mean, I have been saying it for years now. I do believe the coin engine is an extremely interesting engine, which can be implemented for a variety of situations, and we are seeing more and more of these. And I'm definitely hoping we will see more of them. I mean, I got a couple projects which are, I think, quite original in this respect, but we saw some new that it's. Series is kind of misleading. I understand, obviously, that Gene wants to sort of brand it, and it is 200% right. But I think it's an engine. It's a way to tackle a lot of situations. I mean, whenever you have asymmetrical situation, wherever you have multifactional conflicts, coin is a great way to go. It doesn't mean you should always use coin. You can come up with different systems, but it's definitely a great option way beyond the original games. Which broke new ground and have been so important. In themselves and as an introduction to what could be done in terms of approach. But so yes, I cannot say enough good things about the coin engine.
I think also even more than just being a system, it's introduced lots of new kinds of basic ideas and different mechanisms which could be reused in all kinds of different ways. So I think it's great to see so many designers not being bound by the kind of what it first was, bringing it into new things. But we're moving on to the winner apparently. So
yes,
drum roll, please.
Yeah, drum roll, because we were 1 hour and 5 minutes in. Yep. A lot of people have been in the stream waiting for the winner to be announced. So I think we need to get in there. And once again, we can keep on chatting after we've announced the winner. But I think quite a few people are online waiting to know who's the winner. And I would like you, Morgan, to introduce the winner. I'm going to show the slide, and I would like you to tell all the love you have for that specific entry.
Okay, in the end, there can only be one. and so we came up with Vijaya Gara. We loved a lot of games. I've got some games I love to death, which are not on this top 3, but we all agreed, all 3 of us, that this game was really one of the top options, if not the top option for every one of us. I want to play that game. It's as simple as that. The theme is remarkable. The implementation is very interesting. The work that was done in a short period. It may have been the most polished entry at that level of ambition, as I said before. Jean, as you're listening, I think Boudica's Revolt would be a very valuable expansion for Pendragon, but please do Vijayanagara first for Gandhi. There's no non-violence, there's no whatever. It touches and I think it also has a very broad appeal. It goes away from the traditional subject matters that we tend to see in Europe and North America. I'm definitely looking to play it as soon as I can find some time.
But that's great.
Same with me.
Yeah. That's great to hear. I think it's but once again, I think you're also just want to make clear that it was hard to pick a winner.
Yes.
There is a lot. What I've heard from Jason is that even picking the top 3 was super hard because there were so many good games. And there is something that I want to say to the participants is that you all have a feedback on your specific submission that Jason is going to send out. I'm going to give him the email address so he can actually reach out. There is a lot of interest on those games because a lot of them are just brilliant. Coming up with the top 3 was really hard for the jury, and picking a winner, I guess Morgan must have been very, very, very tough. But once again, mind blown by the quality of the submissions.
Yes.
And we have Jean saying congratulations, and yes, and he's very open to releasing a lot of expansions. Okay, so we are going to fill in the P500 timeline for the next 3 months.
If we did it.
We need space for our own games, Morgan. We're playing against ourselves. No, but that's great. I'm super happy.
There's a question from Ibai in the chat here about whether people outside of the jam itself could have a look at some of the submissions. And I think maybe we need to talk to each team, but we would like to try and make some of these more available if we can.
So as I said earlier, we're going to set up a page with the submission of CONSIM Game Jam #1. And what we want to check with the team is if they're okay if we're releasing some of the material. So obviously the TTS mod would be here, but we would like also for you to actually see the different submissions. And it's just, I just want to make sure that it's okay with everyone. I don't want to release something publicly that the team wouldn't be happy with. So just checking in that everyone is comfortable with that. And we're going to try to make it as accessible as possible going forward. So in the coming couple of weeks. So you have more stuff to actually look into details into the different submissions. And it looks like, if I'm looking at what Jeannie's saying on the chat, that some of it would be released soon. So that's actually pretty cool. So,
Right.
so that's nice. You won't even have to look at the material. You just have to purchase it on the.
Careful
So
with
that's
soon,
nice.
but
No,
Yeah.
not soon.
Soon in a game
So
publishing
soon
terms.
in a war game way. Soon in a war game way.
yes.
Yeah.
No, but I think Volko made a very good point, is that we all had favorites which are not in these top three. And and it was indeed very hard to come to a consensus. But there was one thing which was very obvious to all three of us, which is that we want to provide as much feedback to every team as can be. Because first, I mean, we all love that. I mean, we design we design for pleasure, we design for fun, and feedback is so important. So we understand that's key, and we also want to stress that. I mean, I don't think any of the entry I saw was not worth. All of them brought something to the table, and so that's something I want to stress, and that's something I would like. Us, I mean, it can be obviously Volko, Jason, but as well you two, just to communicate that and say, you know what, that's interesting, and that maybe was a bit, maybe you missed, you didn't have time, or didn't have time to do the research, or whatever it was, but not access to tools or to the experience or etc. But it's. I mean, the last thing I want is that for those who we have not mentioned in detail today, to think that, no. It was an achievement to submit something in 72 hours, and each and every one of the submissions was really worthy.
Great. So that's it for the winner, but we're not done yet. We have one last thing. We have to talk about what's next. So we had a lot of discussions. That was an awesome first edition. It was beyond our expectations. I think Joe, you also had a lot of fun. I think Sean had a lot of fun also in organizing it. It was not tiring at all. It was super easy to set up. Everything was easy, like smooth as pie. So that was really perfect. So we're really, really looking forward into the future. I know that there was something that I was supposed to say on that what's next slide. So I'm trying to say a lot of stuff to try and remember, but I don't remember, Joe. So if you do remember for me, please let me know.
No? What's next?
Just before I announced with the
and I told you not to write it on a slide because I said
you told me not to write it, and now I
definitely remember.
I hate so much right now.
What's next? No, you've already said it. It was Jason sending some feedback to the teams. That's
okay. No, I already said it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. I'm just going to check if we have some comments in the chat before we talk about what's next. And not yet. So what's next? Edition number 2. I think for us, it's obvious. Edition number 2 has to happen. And you know what? We have someone that we like quite a bit, that is a bit respected in the wargaming industry. A nice guy, that actually said on Twitter, you know what, guys? I stand ready. I want to be judge. So just for him, and we're doing it only for him because we love him so much, we're going to do edition 2. No, but seriously, I think it's great. The momentum was great for edition 1. We had a lot of fun. We see a lot of potential in it, and when we hear from designers like Mark, obviously, it's for us. It's striking a chord. It shows us that maybe there is something to push in that regard. So there will be edition 2. I can announce a month, and I think that we're aiming for April 2021. That's what we're going to do. Once again, if you go on consimgamejam.com, there is a form actually to to stay informed about the future editions of Consim Game Jam. So go there, fill in the form, make sure that we send you an email when we have a bit more dates and everything. But obviously, we want to do an edition 2. This one was so much fun that we think it would be too bad not to do it again. And yeah, that's definitely something that we are very excited about. And we actually hope that some members of the jury will take part as participants in the future Consim Game Jam. So I don't know, Morgan, if you're planning on joining us for the future Game Jam in April 2021. Morgan doesn't want to join. I don't know.
I
Maybe
think we're having some technical issues here, actually.
we
But
might have
that's
lost
fine.
Morgan, actually.
Yeah, we lost Morgan. We did good though.
So do we have some comments? So we have some thanks. Thank you to all of you actually for participating. That was awesome. Oh, and Morgan is back. Perfect. No,
Maybe.
no,
We're having trouble with it. Yeah. One thing I wanted to say is if you keep in touch, and if you have any more feedback or ideas about what we could do in future, we'd really love to hear it. I know some of our participants have got more experience of running these kinds of events and have offered help already. So currently it's just the three of us working on this. So if anyone wants to pitch in and offer to help, that's also much appreciated. Thanks.
And we have a small comment from Jean saying we're happy to sponsor in April if you want us to. It's like saying no to GMT. Can we really do that? I don't know. And actually, that would be awesome. But that's a discussion to have. Definitely, Jean would be happy to talk about it. I think that would be great. So that could be really fun. And I guess that if Mark Herman is part of the jury, that would potentially thematically make sense in a way. So that's also something to discuss. But yeah. Keep in mind, April 2021, that's the target. You'll get more info in the future. And for the participants, know that you're going to be contacted by the jury to share some feedbacks. Once again, thank to all of you for participating in this first CONSIM Game Jam. We had a lot of fun. We're very thankful. And that was awesome. And I'm completely drunk, I must say, because I ran out of water at some point, and that was the only liquid I had on my table. And I think we need to stop because I'm yes, I don't think I can be a good host anymore.
You're meant to be playing prototypes with me bright and early tomorrow, Fred. So
yes,
we'll see how that goes.
Perfect.
It'll be hungover Fred and drunken Sean for Prototype Friday.
Yes. But thanks everyone for watching the streams. Thanks everyone for participating. Thanks again to the jury, and see you very, very soon for the second edition of CONSIM Game Jam. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and we have Morgan. You're back.
Oh.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
We're lucky with the internet connection for most of the stream, but obviously it could not last to the end. So sorry for that.
That's fine. You're just in time to sign off and say your last wishes. So that's great.
Yeah. but anyway, yeah, I would be delighted to be part of that again. No question.
Excellent.
Awesome. Great.
All right.
See you everyone. Bye bye.
Good night.
Bye bye.